Hello CB users! Today's video is about Catastro, which is the Inland Revenue's property database. We'll see how to use it, how to access it, and what type of information it contains. I hope you find the information in today's video useful. If you do, please share, like, and subscribe. So, as you can see on the screen, it's a very easy page to find. All you have to type in your web browser is the word Catastro, and the first option will be this one, Sede Electrónica del Catastro. When the web page comes up, we can see that there's a lot of information there, most of it not relevant for us today. But the one that is the Buscador de Muebles, and that's the one we're going to focus on. What does that mean? That means a search engine for property and a map viewing application. That's the one that we're going to use for a couple of reasons. We're going to try and learn how to locate a property, find property, and to see what type of property it is, and then look at the characteristics of those properties. Let's begin by clicking here and finding out how we can search for a property. It's fairly quick, and as you see, the first page is requesting us to put in the referencia catastral, which is simply an alphanumeric number, so with letters and numbers. And if you have it, great. You will find it on your council tax and also on your deed, possibly. And if you have that number, just put it in here, and away you go. And if not, then you can simply select the street and the area, and then if you have the coordinates, I doubt very much you do, but if you have the coordinates, you can use those to locate the property as well. Those are two principal ways of getting into the cadastral database and finding a property. There is another way, which is even easier. If you happen to be trying to find out the information about a property you are currently using the computer app. So if we get rid of this, click up here, and we go down here to the bottom, we can see that we've got lots of different functions. Don't really need to go into detail right now, but the search engine here, layers, which we are going to use later, other features which will come up. But here, if we click on this symbol here, okay, the arrow is going in, click in, and it asks us if it's okay to send our location to Catastro. If we say yes, permitir, it will find us. As you see, it's taking us to where this computer is being used. Okay, so there we have properties of an urban nature, a developed nature. We have properties of an agricultural nature, and we have things in between. If we move this over here, does its recalculation, and we can see this type of property, which is very interesting, which is clearly an agricultural plot of land, but it has something going on here. There's a blob of construction and there's a blob of water, and we can have a look basically at what's going on there. So we're not going to spend too much time on the agricultural plots, because I don't think many of you will be all that interested in finding out the characteristics of a plot. I'm just going to click on one and bring up the feature. That's all you have to do to find the the file, and what it tells us here is the address, how big it is, the plot, so 14,046 square meters, and here we have the referencia cadastral, so the number, the reference number for this property, exclusively for the catastro, for the inland revenue. That's not a number which is issued by the land registry. That's a reference number for this property with the inland revenue. Let's click on that, find out what information it gives us. Basically the same information in a different format, and if we want to, we can print that format here in a certificate style. We can see that here it says that it's agricultural land. This is the address. The class of land is rustico, which in actual fact is not a class of land. Rustico used to be a class of land. Now that is divided into different class of land. What it was rustic land before is now either suelo no urbanizable común or suelo no urbanizable protegido. There are other types, but those are the two principal types. So this basically means it's rural land, but that is no longer the official classification. Rustico is now called something else. But we can tell that on rustic land, you cannot build. So, and that's not a problem in this case because there's nothing built. So let's go back and find something else. Okay, so that plot there. Let's zoom out of it. And choose a different plot with something on it. How about this one here? That's really better than this one. Files coming up. Okay, now this is an urban plot of land. We can tell that. We can tell that the plot is 1,000 square meters, 1,002 square meters. Is this the address? And this is it says has 456 square meters of construction. It's not divided up horizontally, which means basically it just has one owner. And the construction is from 1980. I'm going to get more details on that, but let's just click here and bring up the proper file. Okay, it's much more interesting. So this has a class of land urbano, which is still true. There is a class of land called urbano, and with that type of land you can build houses. The specifications of those houses are given by your not by the town hall, but they're written into what's called a plan general, so the general development plan of the town. That each neighborhood has neighborhood or sector has restrictions, has parameters for building property. So this is urbano. That doesn't mean that you can instantaneously know the parameters for construction. You need to look at the neighborhood or sector to find those out. But we can tell that it's got 556 square meters, built in 1980. We've got here that it's divided into vivienda, and then you've got vivienda again. So it's vivienda is a house, and vivienda again. So what does that mean? It means it's got two floors. So vivienda, the first floor being the big one, 123 square meters, and the second one, 99, will be the second floor. It says planta, 0, so ground floor. Planta, number 1, so first floor. A couple of warehouses, and it has some installations for sport. In this case, is a swimming pool. And so, yeah, that looks fine. There's no problem with that. We'll go back to the file we were looking at before. Okay, and we're going to do something. We're going to try and look at these properties through the filter of the aerial photographs, which is a bit easier to discover if there's any problems. Let's zoom in to a house if we can. Doesn't have to be the same house, any house. Let's zoom into that one, that's interesting. Here comes the file. Okay, let's open that file directly. And we can instantaneously see that there's a problem here, because you can see, for example, just outside this red line, which is what they've got declared, the red line, what's already not declared, it's what the tax office is aware of. Beyond that, there's a construction here. Okay, and for example, the tiles, they seem to match, so it doesn't look like a temporary construction to me. It looks like a garage, especially as it's in front of a big entrance here. Big entrance, that may even be a car there, so that looks like something which will have to be declared. Well, not declared, it should be declared, but the tax office isn't aware that existed. It wasn't there on the last photographs they took, so that will mean an increase in the council tax the next time they revise it. Okay, so we know that this is suelo urbano. We know that that means that the you can build something on there. The specifications of what you can build are on the sector part of this sector's part of the Plan General, of the general development plan of the area. And we know the construction was 2005 in this case, so that's a different file. But yeah, everything's okay with that one. But here is an interesting case. So these are agricultural plots. That's the one we looked at before. This is clearly an agricultural plot. If we click on the plot, the file will come up. It may take some time to do so, but it will come up. And when it does, we'll have a look at the class of land and what's built on there. Okay, so let's go directly to the file. Okay, so class of land, rustic land. So can you build a house on rustic land? You cannot. So is it a house? Let's go and check it out. Let's find out it's a house. Okay, let's convert that image into a photograph. I'm clicking here, Orto Photos, and zooming in, and it's clearly a house. A house with a pool. That's interesting as well. So this house with a pool on a rustic plot, on a rural plot. There are also two buildings which are not even recognized from the time of the previous aerial photograph. So these guys just keep building. Let's find out the date of construction for that building. So the first building was 1992, which was the Lerao. Under the Lerao set of planning rules, under those circumstances, this type of construction had a statute of limitations of 6 years, so that's expired. That means they can't be taken to court for that. Well, they can be taken to court, but they can't be compulsorily obliged to demolish the property because the statute of limitations has expired. However, it is severely restricted, the property, because you cannot get a certificate for living in that property, which is called licencia de ocupación. So you can't connect to any utilities. And also, obviously, there were two other buildings, which were that building and this building, which these photographs are normally taken every 5 years. So these two weren't even there 5 years ago. So yeah, that means that you cannot get a building license for a property in a building consolidating a house on a rural plot. So these are illegal buildings. These are illegal, and they may be within the statute of limitations of the new law, which is the LOTUP. The statute of limitations, if this is suelo no habitable común, is now 15 years, not 6. And if it's suelo no habitable protegido, it doesn't have a statute of limitations. It goes on forever. It can always be prosecuted. So this building and this building, it's quite possible that they could be requested to be demolished. So we've seen urban land, there's a problem here. We've seen rural land, it's really not of that much interest. Well, it can be of interest because you can build on rural land. You just can't build houses on rural land, and in order to build on rural land, you need a minimum number of square meters, which is normally 10,000 square meters, a hectare. We can see, but just by clicking, that this one has, if I remember correctly, it was 14,000, and this one has a lot less. So we can say that here, if they wanted to, they could build up to 2% of that land. Not a house, but they could build a warehouse or something like that for storing a tractor or I don't know, the tools or something like that. And these guys couldn't. So that is interesting to know, but especially if you've got a plot attached to your property. And hopefully it's segregated, so it'll be treated differently. So that is all I really wanted to go through in terms of what information you have here in Catastro. There's a lot more information, but essentially that will give you a good start. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.